What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful.com, here ahead of New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 14 with a big part of that show, January 4th, on New Japan World. The man who carries the United States Championship into the show, Lance Archer, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
Doing great. And obviously, this is a big show, one of the biggest of the year. You
Yep.
are preparing yourself for a bit of a different role than you have traditionally seen. Usually tag matches, high-profile tag matches at that, facing any different group of competitors. Now you're facing Jon Moxley, one-on-one, U.S. title. Is there an adjustment? You've obviously been around long enough to where you can adjust to anything, but how does this one stack up?
Well, yeah, absolutely, man. This is definitely, for me, it's probably my most high-profile singles match that I've ever really had in my career. I've had a really cool, long, fun career, but most of that has been centered around tag team stuff, whether it was, in TNA or in WWE, and then most of my time in New Japan, like you said, with KES, with Davey Boy Smith Jr. So this is certainly the biggest singles match of my career. It's been kind of a crazy whirlwind of a 2019 from, 2019 kind of starting and being pretty slow and, nothing really happening for KES or myself. And then, come to the G1 and, it was a situation where initially I wasn't even supposed to be a part of the G1 and then something happened, something changed. I don't know exactly what, but I was included. And, I took every opportunity there to, I guess, kind of reinvent myself and show the world who I really was and what I really could be. And, it's just kind of snowballed since then. The whole situation back in October, King of Pro Wrestling, Moxley couldn't make it. Poor boy, he couldn't make it the show. But for me, it was a great situation because they put me in that spot. New Japan advertises a title match, and that's what the fans are going to get. And I've got put in an opportunity to face Juice for that U.S. Championship, won it. And now I'm going into the Tokyo Dome as the champion, facing Jon Moxley. He's being a little bit of a crybaby and he wants his belt back, but that's to be expected, I guess.
So anybody who's watched you perform knows the level of performer that you are. But I mean, you talked about the circumstances that unfolded this year. KES
Right.
ending the way that it did, probably not something a lot of people foresaw. You yourself didn't know you were going to be in the G1, and you got all that buzz off of the Ospreay match in particular. Then the Moxley thing unfolds, and nobody could have saw that coming the way it did.
No, not even me, man.
Yeah, at the beginning of 2019, where would you have seen yourself at the end of 2019?
I had no idea. And then legitimately, and there's no knock anywhere else or anybody else. There was thoughts of leaving New Japan just for the simple fact that, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what was going to continue to move forward or what was going to happen. But, it wasn't a situation where I was like actively looking to leave the company. It was just a point of actively looking to further my career. And at the time, or starting in 2019, I didn't know if that was going to be in New Japan. And then obviously the business has changed even drastically since the beginning of 2019. So, I was just looking to see what was going to be the next best avenue for myself. And, we still were a part of small things here and there with New Japan. They did some, small U.S. tours and stuff of that nature. So I was still working and still, grinding it out and treading waters, some people might say. And then, like I said, the situation, like actually Ospreay and I had an amazing match in the New Japan Cup in March of this year, which I think kind of was the initial catapult to lead to all the things that kind of came from that. I don't think if Will and I had not had the match that we had at the New Japan Cup, that I would have even been included into the G1. And then, like you said, to have my first match in the G1 and the first match of the whole entire G1, the first time ever in the United States of America. So, he and I were kind of setting the standard, setting the precedence of what G1 performances are supposed to be for an audience that had never seen the G1 live. And it was in Dallas, Texas, my backyard. My family and friends and people who had been watching me in my entire career were in the building watching this unfold. And, it was an amazing, cool experience for that to go down the way it went down. And, there are some wrestlers, Will's one of those guys that I've said time and time again, if you go and have a bad match with Will, there's something really wrong with you. But to say that I didn't carry my own is being a little ignorant, because I know I stepped up and I know I did my part. And, trying to establish myself as one of the best big men in the business today.
You talked about where you thought you might be in 2019. There were reports a couple months ago that you were working without a contract. Is that the case? And I mean, I know it's contract season for New Japan, but I mean, what's that situation like for you?
Well, I mean, as of right now, it's the exact same it's always been for the last 8.5 years with New Japan. How that changes possibly in the next month or so, who knows? But yeah, as of right now, going to Wrestle Kingdom, my situation is the same as it's always been. There is just kind of a tradition, that's changing because of the environment of professional wrestling right now, with the big contracts that are being signed in WWE, AEW being a true player in the business. Both on the show level and the financial level for the guys and girls around the world. The hot independent scene that exists everywhere in the States. You still have Impact Wrestling, and Impact Wrestling is doing better than it's been doing in a long time. You've got MLW doing its thing, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of avenues for guys and girls to go and make a living in this business. And so, but as of right now, yeah, I don't have like an annual style contract. I'm just been a tour by tour guy for 8.5 years.
And of course, there's New Japan USA, which is looking like it's going to launch. Had you heard anything of that from the company before, or maybe even since, about possible plans involving you and that territory, so to speak?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've already been doing shows in the United States of America. It's just now it's kind of created its own branch of the company. It's not like it's a separate company. It's not a company that runs independently of New Japan. It's a subsidiary of New Japan and all that stuff. So there's more coming up. They just announced the stuff that's coming up that they're going into, they're starting in like Tampa, then going to Raleigh, then going to Nashville, then going to like Tampa, and then maybe I said Tampa, Miami, and then finishing up in Atlanta, like a crazy little whirlwind tour. The New Beginning USA tour, which is actually the first time that they're running side by side an actual tour in Japan. Like everything before has kind of been run, a show here or a couple shows there, or a tour after. And it's in between what's happening in Japan. And this is the first time that there's going to be the New Beginning tour that, runs every year in Japan. And then we're going to have the New Beginning USA tour that's running at the exact same time. So this is their first venture, like I said, for New Japan of America, and to be running those tours simultaneously. I'm trying to think of the correct word there. And there's going to be a lot of different people involved, Americans that are a part of the company. You're going to see new faces. Alex Zane is a guy that just popped up, and he's become super hot in the business, and he wrestled in LA the last time we were in LA. So you're going to probably start seeing him a lot more often, especially on the American side of things. And then, like I said, they're going to bring the Japanese wrestlers over as well. So it's not going to just be a bunch of Americans for New Japan of America. It's going to be a mix of everybody, depending on what storylines are going on and who's on tour where, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be a lot of fun and exciting, and it's going to be pure New Japan Pro Wrestling for those fans that are coming to watch the stuff in the States.
So there's that change as well, plus the Wrestle Kingdom expanding to 2 nights. Those are 2 pretty significant changes, expansions, I think is a better word for it, than we've seen in the past. And I mean, you have witnessed a major transformation in New Japan since you first came around. I mean, the footprint in America specifically is significantly higher. And you've also seen the AXS deal come and now go. What are your impressions of the changes that have been made in New Japan just over the past few months since the Wrestle Kingdom being 2 nights announcement kind of unfolded?
Right. Well, they announced that last year at Wrestle Kingdom that it was going to be 2 nights. Like you said, the expansion has just grown and grown and grown. New Japan does a really good job of being smart about what they do. That's why they've never just gone in too much, too fast, too soon. That's why a lot of the New Japan of America stuff or New Japan USA stuff was a show here, 2 shows there, a small tour here, things of that nature, because they were testing the waters and figuring things out and whatnot. And their global footprint as far as not only U.S. but the UK and Australia and places that they've already run bigger events and been successful at doing so. Everything's just it's so fun to watch the company grow, and that the fact that fans around the world, because of New Japan World, and then like you said, people are going to be able to watch Wrestle Kingdom on New Japan World, or they can watch on Fight TV. And so there's two different platforms that if you're wanting to watch Wrestle Kingdom, which I highly recommend to anybody that's a wrestling fan ever, that they have two different kinds of platforms to watch it on. If you just want to watch it purely as a single night pay-per-view, like I said, hit up Fight TV. If you want to subscribe to an amazing network, hit up New Japan World. Like I said, it's 999 yen for a monthly subscription, and you get to watch all the live events that they produce in Japan and some in the US as they go on and do that. So there's a lot of different avenues. There's the unfortunate situation with AXS TV, but that's not to say that we won't find another home at some point in the United States. Who knows? Maybe they're just going to stick with the streaming platforms, as popular as that is, around the world right now, because that's what's reaching the United States and Canada and Mexico and the UK and Australia and everywhere around the world that wants to watch, New Japan Pro Wrestling. They can subscribe to New Japan World and watch it right on any device that they have. So the outreach has grown so much. I've been lucky enough to be with the company for 8.5 years now. And when I started in 2011, it was the very first time they're really starting to try to see if they could do that. They brought in guys like MVP, myself. They had guys like Giant Bernard, or as his last known as Tensai. Carl Anderson, made his name in the wrestling world there. Shinsuke Nakamura, guys like that people know. AJ Styles, who'd already made a name in the U.S. with TNA and whatnot, I think really became the entity that he is today. And I think it's what's, attributed to his success in WWE in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So a lot of those names that, the wrestling fans know came from New Japan. But it was at a time when, it was really hard to watch unless you were in Japan. And then our group, Suzuki Gun, did a two-year sabbatical with Pro Wrestling Noah. And even in that time, that's when New Japan World came about. When we came back, there was almost a whole new audience that didn't even realize we'd already been there and champions with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So it's amazing to see how much it's grown, how fast it's grown, and to see where it's actually going to go.
And we see that crossover appeal too, like where Jon Moxley comes over from the States.
Right.
And he adopts Shota as his protege, and now all of a sudden, all these people in North America know and love Shota. And I know that you've had the opportunity to work with plenty of young lions. If you had the opportunity to kind of pick somebody as your protege in that same vein, who do you think that would be?
I don't know, but poor Shota, he's going to lose a mentor after January 4th. So he's going to be a sad young lion over.
Would you adopt him
right now? Hell no. He wanted Jon Moxley. I'll kick him in the face gladly, but I'm not adopting him. He chose the Death Rider, and he's going to die with him. So that's all I'm going to say. I don't know, man. There's so many amazing talents. Now we have the LA dojo and some boys that are coming out of there. And there's going to be more going into that dojo. You've got some of the young lions that are just now starting to do their excursions, and some that are still in Japan right now. So I don't know. I mean, there's not really. I keep an eye. They're limited in what they're allowed to do and things of that nature. But I want to see that attitude, that Murder Hawk Monster attitude. And if one brings it about, then I might take them under my wing, teach them how to kill everybody.
So you talked about possibly leaving this year, and of course Davey Boy did, and I spoke to him a couple weeks ago, and that was a very confusing situation because he said that he wanted to work Impact, and Gato was like, no, Jeff Jarrett screwed us over, but they have since worked with Jeff Jarrett since all that stuff with Okada, and it was it was really confusing, and I know that he left very confused and a little disheartened by that. Do you still keep in touch with Davey?
We haven't really spoken. I don't think there's any ill will. I mean, I have none towards him or anything like that. He just made a business choice based on how he felt of the situation that existed for him. If he has any ill will towards me, I have no idea. I've never heard anything negative one way or the other. And I hope the most success for him that's possible. He's kicking ass, and MLW right now just won their Opera Cup and everything. So it's one of those things. Like, I think he and I, there's no issue between him and I. KES didn't have a bad split. It just was a business decision. In this business, you never say never. So who knows what could happen in the future, and KES could ride again. But as of right now, like I said, he chose to go and do what he wanted to do. And, for me, I've had a few lucky breaks in New Japan and opportunities to really shine, and I've capitalized on them. So we're both just doing our thing, and I think doing really well at it. And who knows what the future holds for us as a tag team, But as of right now, like I said, it's just kind of, he chose to go his own way, had his issues with the company and so on and so forth, and made that choice. And I didn't necessarily have the same issues. So, I think that's kind of why I'm still with the company, and things have gone the way they've gone for me there. So.
Yeah, another friend of yours, Monty Brown. I use you as
as
a source constantly to debunk the fake Monty Brown Twitter that all these suckers fall for. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's the internet. You post anything on the internet. Yeah. Nobody researches truth. They just go with the initial announcement or headline or whatever that is.
And I spoke to Kevin Thorne. I was at his house interviewing him, and he actually had Monty come in for a show earlier this year. Did you see that, and did that surprise you? Because I mean, I know that you worked with him plenty back in the day, and he's a guy that, quite frankly, if he wanted, would have a full booking schedule.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I talk to Monty all the time. Yeah. I was surprised about the show, and I messaged about it, and he was just kind of making an appearance. It wasn't like he was going and wrestling on a full-time basis or anything. He just made an appearance because him and Kevin, they were road buddies back when he was there in the company and all that stuff. And like you said, I think, and I've tried to get him to come on board with me and do some things once in a while. And he just, he got out of the business, and he chose to do it his way and to take care of his family. And, his Alpha One training program there in Michigan is kicking butt, and he's enjoying it. He loves doing it. It was a big part of his life before when he was in TNA. And then he kind of had to step back from it because TNA actually offered him a full-time deal and, full-time schedule and stuff. And then so after his WWE run, that's kind of what he got back into. And he really enjoys that aspect of his life and being around his family and taking care of his family. He's an amazing man, to say the least. He became a brother in my life at a time when I was having really hard times. And he didn't know me, and he didn't have to be as cool and as good of a human being as he was. And that just, to me, gained more respect than ever. And just, knowing his situation in WWE and why he chose to left just solidifies that even more of how amazing of a human being he is. Yeah. I can't speak high enough of him. He's just been an amazing man. And I'm glad to know him. I'm glad that I can, in a sense, call him my brother. And, I only hope the best for him. But yeah, he just kind of stays away from the wrestling. Once in a while, he'll pop around the show and say hello, and
always
things
looks
like
jacked.
That, so.
Always looks jacked.
Because he never gets out of the gym. That's why he's training people, and he runs people off because he trains so hard.
Yeah, and I think him leaving when he did almost just accentuated him being almost that cult figure, because everybody thought he should have been the face of TNA wrestling. And then when he wasn't, and he went to WWE and still left before he got like a major push. Right. Plus, he made such a positive impact on so many in the industry. Everybody talks highly about him.
Oh, yeah.
And Kevin had told me that lots of people hit him up like, hey, how do I get a hold of him to book him? And he's like, well, you don't. You just don't. He doesn't want to. Yeah. But, you mentioned his character. He did that because it was to benefit a child who had, I believe, battled cancer. That's why he did it, and did it, I think, on the house. So that's a pretty good testament to his character.
He came down to Texas and made an appearance on a benefit show when I had my injury 2.5+ years ago. A friend of mine set up a random benefit show to my surprise with my family and stuff like that, and they convinced Monty to come down, and he flew down and came and made an appearance on that. So that's one of the last, I think, TV appearances he ever made, because we actually broadcast it on Twitch that night. So yeah, it was really cool of him to come down and do that and be a part of that.
So Wrestle Kingdom 14, as you mentioned, available on New Japan World and Fight. You got Jon Moxley night 1. I'm going to assume you have Juice Robinson night 2. We're just going to operate under that assumption.
I get to kill 2 people in 2 nights in the biggest stage. One of the biggest stages in professional wrestling. Can't beat that, right?
Yeah, and a couple of guys that have really emerged, and Juice Robinson reinvented himself in Japan as well.
He did.
It's unbelievable. You got guys like Kevin Owens saying this is the best promo in wrestling. Pretty high praise. You've got Jon Moxley, who is one of the faces of All Elite Wrestling and was one of the faces of WWE, and you're taking him on night 1 and
No. I'm taking him out. That's what
there you go.
Say.
And it's a Texas death match. So
you said it wrong. There you go.
So How does that affect you from a psychological standpoint going into a Texas death match as opposed to any other type of match that you would have against a Jon Moxley?
Well, Jon, I know Jon is known for his death match appeal and the things he did even before WWE and things of that nature. But you're coming into, my backyard. I've been there, like I said, almost 9 years, 8.5+ years. I've put myself in a position where I'm not planning to slow down one iota. And then you want to challenge me to a Texas death match? I'm from Texas. You're not. And so it's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun for the fans because there's gonna be a lot of amazing, straight up, pure wrestling. I mean, you have Liger's last appearances in the business ever.
Yep.
You have, the Intercontinental and Heavyweight title matches on the line in the first night, and then the two winners of those will go on and we'll have a double champion by the end of night 2. Like you said, you have Tanahashi, the ace of New Japan, one of the best, in my opinion, ever to be in the business, facing Chris Jericho, who has done everything and reinvented himself and made himself, one of the best in the world, no matter where he's gone, no matter what time period he's working in, no matter what company he's working with. Every time he steps in the ring, he's one of those guys that everybody is paying attention to and watching. Like I said, you have Jon and I in a Texas death match. You have the tag team title match on the first night with Juice Robinson, and then Juice wants to challenge me basically for night 2. You have the never heavyweight champion. You have the Europe, the UK championship, the British heavyweight championship. Excuse me. Zack Sabre Jr. and Sonata. I mean, so many matches, and like I said, all these are going to be amazingly cool, pure wrestling matches. But what Jon and I are going to do is going to make people go, "Damn, that was badass."
Yeah. As we wrap up, what do you think of the Stardom match being added to night 1?
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I knew the company had Bushiroad anyway had purchased Stardom. So it was one of those things where I thought, okay, they're going to do kind of like they did with New Japan when they first bought New Japan. It's a company that's doing well for itself. They're going to come in and put the money behind the company to help elevate it to a new level. And I think that's exactly what they're doing with Stardom. They already had some appearances not too long ago in Los Angeles. Now having a match actually in the Tokyo Dome. I know it's just a pre-show match, but it's a precursor to everything. So you don't know what the future is. New Japan's not known for having female wrestlers on their show, but now that we have so many high-profile shows around the world, not just in Japan, but also in the USA, and how the women's evolution of professional wrestling has grown, the fact that Stardom is there, some of the best women wrestlers in the business. I think it's a really cool experience for everybody that's involved, the fans, the ladies that are wrestling, and everybody that's going to be paying attention for the future.
Let the people know where they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I keep everything under my real name, Lance Hoyt. So, Twitter's at Lance Hoyt, Instagram's at Lance_Hoyt, Facebook's Lance Hoyt. So if you hit me up on any of those are the 3 main platforms that I use. If you say something cool, I'll probably answer you back. You say something dumb, and I'll ignore you like you don't exist.
Thank you so much. Reminder, New Japan Wrestle Kingdom, January 4th and 5th. Then you got New Year Dash right after that. One of the best shows of the year. All available on New Japan World. Lance, I want to thank you so much.
I appreciate you having me on, man.